Hello and welcome back to Odds Now. Today we're going to be looking ahead to one of the highlights of the darts calendar, the 2024 World Cup of Darts, which gets going on Thursday, the 27th of June. As you can see today, we're joined by our resident darts expert, Matt Hill. He's going to talk us through this year's tournament. It's set to be a dramatic 4 days of action in Frankfurt with 40 nations chasing glory. Matt, it's great to have you with us. Do you want to start by talking us through, what the tournament is, give us a tournament overview and how it works?
Yeah, good to be here, Brad. So the World Cup of Darts, one of my favourite tournaments of the year, it must be said, just because it's so unique, really, compared to all the other tournaments that we see. It's still relatively new to the darts calendar. It's only the 14th edition, which is not that long, really, for a sport. It only coined in 2010, so it hasn't got the prestige or the history of a world championship or a world match play, but it's rapidly become a tournament that a lot of players would desperately love to win. And I think that's because you're representing your nation, which is something that in individual sports we don't see all that much. Similar to how tennis players always talk about they love the chance to play at the Olympics if they ever get it and how much it means to win a gold medal. This is a similar kind of feeling here, and we've seen it over the years how much it means to these players that normally don't show any emotion. Suddenly, when they pull on their country shirt and they're playing with a partner, it all seems to change, and it can be a good thing or a bad thing. It has had adverse impacts on many a player's performance as well. So just because you've got two good players doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a good team. The pairs format certainly throws up a few surprises. But no, as you mentioned, 40 nations. And what will happen there is the big four nations, which are England, the Netherlands, Wales, and Scotland, will automatically go into the knockout stages. And the remaining 36 will play three groups of 12, 12 groups of three, sorry. And the group winners of each of those 12 groups will join the knockout stages. And from there on, it's very similar to the European Championships, which we've been talking about so much on the YouTube channel. They'll have a last 16, quarterfinal, semi-final, and a final until you have a winner. And the format increases as the knockout stages go on, so longer games. But the key for this tournament is very much the pairs format, which just makes it so unique.
You've mentioned the pairs format there. It's obviously an individual sport, as you've touched upon. How much does playing as a pair change things in your view?
Massively, massively. You could look at these teams and you could just rank them by the quality of the two players playing. It's worth pointing out at this point as well that a lot of people will expect to be seeing Luke Littler playing for England. That's not the case. This is actually done all on the rankings. So the highest two ranked players from each country are the players that are chosen to play. And because Littler has been admittedly ripping up the sport, but only for 6 months, the ranking system is based over the last 2 years. So he hasn't got enough money cumulatively to dislodge Michael Smith, who will be partnering Luke Humphries, but we'll come on to the teams shortly. But no, that pairs format massively changes it because you have to think when you're playing as an individual, every second turn is yours. Whereas here, it's every 4 turns. So, it's you, then the other guy's first player, then your teammate, then the other team's second player, then you again. So there's a lot of waiting around. It's very difficult to get a rhythm. If you're a quick player in particular, it can have a massively negative impact on your game. And there's also that chemistry element as well. Like, do the players get on? Do they enjoy playing with each other? There's a couple of pairings that we're going to touch on in this tournament that have openly said they don't get on that well. And for me, that's a massive negative because there will be times when you're not playing as well and you need your teammate to drag you through. And you don't need to be best buddies, but it certainly helps if there's a bit of camaraderie there, from playing any sports yourself. If you get on with the people you're playing with, it just makes life that little bit easier. So it's a really interesting dynamic. We don't see it in any other tournament, and that's why it makes this such a unique betting event, I think, which we're hopefully going to unearth some value from.
Okay, we'll jump straight into the main event then. The market has odds on favourites this year in England, and I think then it's the likes of the Netherlands, Germany, Wales, and Scotland who are considered the main threats. Do you want to talk us through the favourites and their chances?
Yeah, well, we'll start with England. As you say, odds-on favourites, very unusual. Don't normally have an odds-on favourite for this tournament, but it's because Luke Humphries, who's been the man dominating the sport alongside Luke Littler, finally is about to make his World Cup debut. It's a tournament that he's been desperate to play in for many years alongside the Premier League. So he'll be chomping at the bit to play this. And he has what looks like a bit of a dream pairing, albeit not with Littler, but with Michael Smith. So we've actually got the last two World Championship world champions from 2023 and 2024 pairing up here for England. So on the face of it, you can maybe understand why they've been so well backed in the betting. But I'm not sure it's going to be quite as cut and dry as the betting suggests. Humphreys and Smith, as I just touched on earlier, they're both very quick players. And Michael Smith has played in this tournament a few times before with various other partners. He's always been up and around there as the highest ranked Englishman in recent years. And we've never really seen the best of Smith in this format. I don't think he's a very quick, rhythmical player. I don't think he likes all the standing and hanging around, but he certainly likes representing England. So if he can find, I don't worry about the chemistry with him and Humphreys. I think they'll both be very focused and determined to win. They're both fantastic scorers. So they're going to be a tough team to beat. But the format may go against them a little bit in terms of the waiting around, but also the fact that they're one of the 4 teams that go automatically through to the knockout stages. You would think that's an advantage, but it can actually work in the other way, because these teams who have played 2 matches in the group stages, the pairs have had a bit of time to gel and get used to the slow rhythm. And, you quite often see that the big teams come in and they get caught a little bit cold, and it's a first to 8 legs match. They'll come in against someone who've won both of their group games. Probably no mugs as well, because there are some decent pairings lower down in the rankings here. And they could get caught cold in their first game quite easily. Wouldn't surprise me that much. But they're very worthy favourites, but I just wouldn't be rushing to back them at the price. It's so skinny, really, when you look at some of the depth of talent in this tournament. And the second favourites we'll move on to now are the Netherlands. They obviously won this event a few times, not for a little while, it must be said. And they welcome back Michael van Gerwen this year, who's missed the last 2 editions through 2 different injuries, which will have upset him, because I think he likes playing in this tournament as well. Albeit he has admitted himself that he doesn't have the best connection with his partner, Danny Noppert. Not that they dislike each other. There's no hatred there. They're just very different characters. Noppert, very quiet, understated guy. Van Gerwen, kind of the opposite, bit of a loudmouth, very brash, very bold. And I think there's just not a click there. They happily will play together, but I don't think they bring the best out of each other. And I think they have very different styles. I was intrigued to see how the Netherlands went last year when Van Gerwen was injured, because it was an Noppert's chance to play with somebody else. But unfortunately, he played with Dirk van Dijvenbode, who is another quick, brash, loud player, very similar to Van Gerwen. There's a big part of me that thinks that Van Gerwen and Van Dijvenbode will probably be the best pairing, but that hasn't quite worked out for them yet. This year, there's no doubt that these 2 are as talented as anybody in the field in terms of a pairing. But for that lack of chemistry, I couldn't be backing them backed in a lot because of an issue with Wales, which we're going to come on to shortly. But yeah, they're way short enough for me. So it wouldn't be my idea of a bet either at the current prices. Third favourites now are Germany. Germany have yet to win this event, but there's no doubt that they're one of the most rapidly emerging nations in the world of darts. The pairing of Martin Schindler and Gabriel Clemens is a very familiar one. They've been playing together for years now. They get on really well. They had their best ever run in this tournament last year when making the semi-finals. So that all bodes well. They're trending well. They were unlucky not to make the final last year, actually, just ran out of steam a little bit. But they also have this crucial factor now of home advantage in this tournament, which is going to be a massive plus for them once again. They'll have a really vociferous crowd behind them. And that can make all the difference when the nerves and tension are on. We've seen it in the past with Germany, where that home crowd and the pressure has almost got to them a little bit. But I think they're over that now. They seem to channel that energy positively last year, and they just bumped into a Scotland pairing that played particularly well in the semi-final, I thought. So really encouraged with where Germany are. No surprise to see they've been pretty much the best backed team in the anti-post market for this. There's still maybe a little bit of juice in the price compared to an England or a Netherlands, but they do have to still get over that winning hurdle of actually getting there and winning this, and even playing in a final for the first time in Germany. That would be a big occasion for them. But one thing that definitely got going in their favour is the form of Martin Schindler. He's been one of the form players of this year. He won his first PDC senior title on the European Tour, and he's followed that up with a couple of semi-finals recently. There's not many people in better form than Schindler. And Clemens is someone who's been to a World Championship semi-final. They're used to having the hopes of a nation on them. It would be nice to see them finally do it. I could see why people would back Germany, but I actually have a team at bigger odds that I'd prefer. But they would definitely be on my shortlist. The next team that we're going to discuss, only 2 more of the big favourites, I suppose, to mention, is Wales. Wales would have been much shorter in the betting, but unfortunately news has broken today that Gerwyn Price will not be playing in this tournament. He's been ruled out due to an injury that he's been nursing for the last few weeks, and he's tried his very best to get fit for this because this is his favourite tournament of the year where he gets to play alongside his best mate Johnny Clayton. They're the defending champions. They're outstanding in this format, normally best friends, loving it on the hockey, bringing the best out of each other. And they would have been my idea of a bet at 6-1. However, since Price has withdrawn, they've announced that he's going to be replaced by Jim Williams. Now, Jim Williams is a really solid operator, but he hasn't got the X factor of Gerwyn Price. I think it's fair to say not many do. So that's a massive blow for Wales. But I'm not sure it's as big a blow as the market is making out. I've been really surprised by just how severe the drift has been on Wales. You know, I mentioned the worries and concerns I have over the other market leaders in this tournament. Jim Williams is coming into things. He's no mug. He's won a floor title. He's gone deep in a couple of majors. He has world championship wins under his belt. He was a stalwart in the BDO, which was the amateur circuit before he got turning pro. The only reason Jim Williams hasn't really kicked on for my money and become a top 32, top 16 player is because he has his own business outside of darts and he doesn't want to commit full time to playing. He likes to do a bit of darts and a bit of his own home life, which is, you know, understandable, pays the bills. But I honestly think if Jim Williams committed full time to this, then he could easily get into the top 16. So this guy can play, make no doubt about it. And he's not a bad replacement for Johnny Clayton. Are they going to get on? Probably not as well as Clayton and Price get on because they're literally best friends. But I think Clayton is one of the nicest guys in darts and he's a really friendly face. And I'm sure him and Jim Williams will just take it in their stride. They'll probably really enjoy being written off as underdogs. A little bit of a free hit for them. And I think Jim Williams plays at a nice, sedate, slow pace. I don't think these long pauses will affect his game at all. And if he's anywhere near his best, sort of 75, 80%, and Clayton brings the level that he's shown in the last couple of months, I still think Wales have got a great chance of going deep in this and maybe winning it. At the time of speaking, they had drifted out to as big as 20-1 on the Betfair exchange, which I just thought was way, way too big. So I've got involved there at 20-1. There are some sports books that are offering 14 or 16-1 on them with each way terms. Couldn't put you off that either. So Wales would definitely be a bet for me, despite the loss of Gerwyn Price at the current prices. The last favourite that I suppose we should cover would be Scotland, who have won this title a couple of times. It's Gary Anderson and Peter Wright teaming up. They were finalists again last year. They lost to Wales. They were hammered in the final, to be fair, 10-2, but a really good run to get there. This is a very interesting pairing because they're the two most experienced players in the field, both former two-time world champions, so no shortage of quality there. But Gary Anderson looked like somebody who had gone at the game a couple of years ago before he's had this unbelievable renaissance. And in the last 18 months, he's been as good as anybody. Peter Wright has gone the complete opposite way. 18 months ago, Peter Wright was one of the best around. Now he's massively on the wane, and it's really worrying levels of performance we're seeing from Peter Wright. He finished rock bottom of the Premier League. He's been knocked out of all the majors really early. He's frequently getting knocked out early stages of the European tours as well. So it's a big worry for me for Peter Wright, whether he's ever going to be able to reclaim that. But in Gary Anderson, he's playing with somebody who, one, he knows really well and has paired with many, many times. And two, somebody who's been through a similar struggle to him and can, you know, completely empathise with how he may be feeling. And it may just be that Anderson brings the best out of Wright again this week. And we have seen flashes from Wright. There's been the odd performance in there that hints that he's maybe starting to find something again. But there's not been enough consistency. On the day, if these two play well, they could easily win this tournament. But the lack of consistency around Wright's performances in particular would have to make Scotland a no bet for me. So yeah, out of the favourites, it's definitely Wales that I'm leaning towards at the prices. And that's despite the loss of their star man and a massive drift in the market. I still fancy them.
Okay, good stuff. And beyond those Five Nations, Matt, is there anyone else that you can see having a deep run in the tournament at the bigger prices?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to do daily coverage of the tournament over on oddsnow.com. And, you know, the group stages is going to see some of their sort of smaller nations take centre stage for a couple of days. And the beauty of that is that a lot of these pairs, while they don't have the quality of these big hitters to maybe go and win the tournament, they do, a lot of them have one really good player and maybe one either emerging talent or kind of the best they can find from that country to partner alongside them. So we probably will get some nice match bets throughout the tournament, from the lesser nations. But there's not really that many other countries that I would say have a genuine chance of winning it. There is one, however, that I would put up as my other bet alongside Wales, and that would be Northern Ireland. An Irish pairing. Now, Northern Ireland have been represented by Daryl Gurney and Brendan Dolan, two veterans of the sport for virtually the entirety of this tournament's history. However, this year, finally, young Josh Rock, who, if it wasn't for Luke Littler, would probably be the young star up and coming in darts world. He's finally got high enough in the rankings to get a spot in that Northern Ireland team. And it's made for this really interesting dynamic over the last couple of months where Gurney and Dolan, who've normally just been absolute bankers to play at this tournament, were suddenly fighting for one spot between them, and they were really close together in the rankings, and it's been back and forth, and Dolan has ended up just nicking it ahead of his mate Gurney. Was really disappointed about that. But what that has done is that little bit of friendly competition seems to have brought the best out of Brendan Dolan. He's really playing well at the moment. And in Rock, he's got a partner who has got just so much ability, like really, really talented, like could easily be a Littler or a Humphreys in the next 2 or 3 years. He's that good. So I'm just intrigued by this dynamic, how it might work. Dolan is quite a slow player, methodical player, and he's played in the World Cup so many times. He's been to a World Cup final with Gurney a few years ago, so he knows what it takes in this format. And in Rock, he has got an extremely talented partner. Now, Rock has referenced Dolan as an inspiration for him growing up as like one of the faces of Northern Irish darts, someone that's helped him mature through the youth ranks into his career. So this is a pairing that could work really nicely. Could be a really nice dynamic here. The two get on. They're both playing well. There's lots of ability there, lots of experience there. So I have to back Northern Ireland at 25-1. I want to back them each way. Wales is more of a win bet just on the chance that it clicks for Clayton and Williams. But this is a really solid each way play. I think Northern Ireland could quite feasibly have a run into the final four. And, I want to be on with them. 25-1, you can get 2 places on the making the half odds on the making the final. So 12.5 to 1 to make the final. I think that's worth a few quid as well. The only other 2 nations, I suppose, that I would reference in the betting, and I've got to be honest, I don't massively fancy the chances of either, but they deserve a mention. Australia, 28-1. Viewers of the old doubles and trebles channel, which is now Darts Now, will remember putting up Australia to win this at 25-1 2 years ago, and they did win it. It was one of my better wins on the channel. And yeah, everything just seemed to click together for them that year. It just was all coming at the right time. Damon Hector was really enjoying himself, playing great darts. Simon Whitlock, who is a veteran of the game, but he always seems to bring his best for this tournament, just loves it. And all the stars seemed to align for them, and they were just fantastic. And they went on and won it, beat Wales in the final. It was brilliant. Hector has just carried on at the high level that he plays. He's just a fantastic, consistent, really solid player. Loves playing for Australia, as does Whitlock, but Whitlock's form has just not really been there, and I'm not convinced that he's going to be able to bring the required level to win this. I do still think they'll make like the last 8, but I think when it comes to meeting against an England, Wales and Netherlands, they might just be found wanting. But look, I'd sooner be playing these kind of teams in this part of the market than the red hot favourites. I think it does have that open element to it, this tournament. The last one I'll give a mention to is Belgium, but it's only a gesture really, because they're going to be represented by Kim Huybrechts and Dimitri van den Berg. Now, anyone that watched it last year will know these two have, well, a love-hate relationship doesn't describe it. They literally hate each other, cannot stand each other, these two. However, they decided to reconcile their differences mid-tournament last year and strung together a couple of really impressive wins before being knocked out in the quarterfinals. Since then, they've had another massive fallout, really slated each other in the press, don't talk to each other, won't even acknowledge each other. It's some kind of personal matters with their families, and they don't ever go into details, but it's clearly quite significant. However, the beauty of the rankings, they have to pair up for this tournament. It'll be an interesting watch, if nothing else, because they do literally blank each other on the hockey. There's no celebrations or anything like that. Kim Huybrechts recently had quite a bad shoulder injury as well. He was beat up at a football match, so Yeah, very strange circumstances around that one. He is back from that injury, but may still have some lingering issues. Vandenberg is temperamental at the best of times. On his good day, he is a major champion and one of the best in the world. On a bad day, he can be very, very bad. So there's just way too many red flags around Belgium to put them up. But I would definitely recommend watching their matches just to see how these two get on throughout the matches, because it's always a laugh to watch. But yeah, that's my feeling towards the top of the market. I'd be amazed if anyone at 66 to 1 or bigger was to lift the trophy, but not to say we won't have a couple of deep runs from some dark horses.
Okay, before we conclude the video, I'll get Matt's best bets up on the screen. As you can see there, you're back in Wales to win at 20 to 1 on the Betfair exchange. And you're also, I think you're keeping an eye on Northern Ireland 1 point each way at 25 to 1 with Bet365. Do you want to quickly rerun us through those, Matt, and remind us of what you think there?
Yeah, so they're definitely my two best bets. Wales is, I just think the drift has been way too big. Jim Williams is a decent replacement for Gerwyn Price. He might not have the sex appeal of some of the other big names in this field, but he's a really solid player. And I think him and Clayton might just click and hit it off. And then Northern Ireland, for all the reasons I say, I think the Rock Dolan dynamic could be a really, really good one. They're pretty unfancied, 8th or 9th in the betting. And yeah, they look well worth having on side each way for me. But as I mentioned, Brad, and as you put there, oddsnow.com will be the place to be throughout the tournament. I'll try and get a match preview up every morning to dig out any particularly good match bets. And yeah, hopefully we'll have a few winners along the way. But it should be a great tournament, and it should fill in the gaps nicely, waiting for the Euros to resume as well for football fans.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you for that then, Matt. That does conclude our outright preview for the World Cup of Darts. Matt is back in Wales to win, as we say, on the Betfair exchange, and he's keeping an eye on Northern Ireland each way, 25 to 1 Bet365, just to reaffirm all that. And just to repeat what Matt said there, keep your eyes on oddsnow.com under the tips and insights section for daily previews of the match action, as Matt looks to tip up some of the daily winners for you. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, please, and let us know who you'll be backing down in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to Odds Now if you're enjoying our content, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Thank you for that, Matt, and we'll see you in the next video.